practical steps that all of us can take to diversify our donor database. Hi, I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the fundraising school, and I'm joined today by Christopher Beck. Christopher is the principal gift advisor for All Sacs St. Jude. And Christopher, thanks so much for being with us on the Fundraising Schools podcast.
Bill, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Now, there has been a strong reawareness and a reawakening around racial and social justice and reconciliation issues, and it's come into the philanthropic sector with many conversations, meetings, discussions on what we can do to be more intentional about increasing diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging in all of our work, whether it's our hiring, whether it's our outreach to the community, but also, Christopher, in terms of reaching out to donors. And you have a lot of lived experience on how nonprofits can increase diversity amongst the people who are the donors to their nonprofit organizations. What advice do you have for us on things we can do to diversify the donor database?
Yeah, Bill. So thank you. That's a great question. So one thing that I've heard a lot of, especially since the whole unrest and everything, is that a lot of donors and potential donors of color don't see themselves in a lot of the charity brands. And so I would just say make sure that you're really providing a very meaningful and intentional on-ramp, as my friend Rhea Warren would say, on-ramp into your charity's philanthropic highway.
And so what does that look like in terms of helping people see themselves as part of the nonprofit organization?
Yeah. So if you have, making sure that your collateral is very diversified, making sure that if you're doing commercials, that, that people of color are seen in those commercials. If you have a person of color that has been a real champion for the mission, have kind of really done some really historic work in the past, highlight that person, allow your staff to go out and tell the stories of kind of what that person has done. So again, and there's just so much. I mean, if you really look at a lot of the charity work, there's a ton of people of color that have played significant parts in advancing missions. And again, those stories are not really being told correctly.
Christopher, what role does the board of directors have and the composition of the board of directors have in helping us reach out to a diverse range of donors in an inclusive way?
My personal opinion, I think the board has a significant role to play in that, is making sure that the board is diversified, and then making sure that the supporter base is diversified, and that the funds are there to create meaningful content, and again, to help diversify. I think that's key. I think it's really key, Bill, especially in today's time. As we know, the whole demographic shift is happening right now. It's here. It's not happening. It's here. And so that's going to really shift the charities landscape a lot. And so we have to get ready for it.
So, Christopher, you talk so well about how, as a nonprofit, we need to be prepared. And one way is to make sure that we are, including a wide range of people with many different demographic backgrounds in our collateral materials, in the images that we're printing and publishing, putting on social media and so forth, making sure our board is diverse. And so people see other folks who look like them, come from their backgrounds, involved with our nonprofit organizations. So that is when people are seeing us. What about reaching out? All right. So I'd like to ask you, if you trust me with this. So middle-class white guy, I'm trying to reach out into Black communities. I'm trying to reach out into Hispanic communities. I have all the right intentions, all the right heart. What advice do you have for fundraisers who are looking to cross those lines of distinction and build new relationships?
So, Bill, that's a great question. So I'm really excited to answer this, because it's very different. And I'm going to say, especially for my community, I'm African American. So you would think, and again, this is not the only way, but this is definitely very different. So you would think the person with the checkbook, if you will, in quotes, will kind of be the gatekeeper. In our community, there's really a person that holds all the relationships to the community. So you have to really figure out who that person is. So the person with the relationships are the gatekeeper to the entire community. And if you don't kind of get their blessing per se, if you will, again, this is just one way, not the only way, that relationship keeper opens up a ton of doors in the Black community. I have definitely seen in the past, and just from personally knowing, organizations, companies will try to come into a community, not get the blessings of the gatekeeper, and get totally shut down, like literally, because you didn't go about it the right way. So again, and that's in every a community of color. It's very, we have our own ways, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be very different for the sector going forward. Not understanding where it's not just, you can write a check, right? It's not about that. It's about relationships and what value add are you bringing to the community? You can't just come in and the history for us as black folks, people have come into our communities and just have took. They just, so now it's all about what's the value add for us, right? You want to come, we know you want something, right? But what's the value add? And that has to be clearly spelled out and explained in a way that is meaningful, a mutually beneficial partnership.
Early in my career, I was doing community development work for the mayor's office in Indianapolis, and we were introduced to one of those gatekeepers, a Black pastor whose full-time profession included running the community barbershop. And one of the first things he said was, usually I see people from the mayor's office right around election time every 4 years, and then we never see them again. And it was this idea of, I obviously must have been there for transactional reasons that were only going to benefit the mayor who I was working for. And I tell this story when I teach, Christopher, that I just kept going back to that neighborhood. We kept doing our work. And fortunately, we were able to eventually form a relationship with that gatekeeper, that pastor who owned the full-time barbershop. And the very first thing he said to me was, "You kept coming back. I've seen you around the neighborhood. My neighbors tell me you keep coming back." And it was that point of saying, no, this wasn't going to be a transactional thing, that we're here to take something, that we do have an intent of doing something transformational that can be a win-win for everybody involved. What does that look like in terms of a donor relationship? That, maybe we can go into communities where groups of people congregate, but what about if, Bill Stan, the fundraiser, is meeting Christopher Beck, the prospective donor? How does that translate in terms of fundraising?
Yeah, so in a previous organization that I worked for, that had that experience that happened to me. I was going in and just kind of introducing myself to the community, and this potential donor told me, Christopher, we really just don't believe in your organization. At that time, the organization that I was with, we don't believe in that, so we just going to ask that you just not come back. Basically, like, it's fine. I mean, we see you, but thanks, but no thanks, basically. And I was like, wow. So I had to just tell that potential donor, I said, listen, it's okay if you don't believe in the organization that I'm with at that time. I said, but I need you to trust me. I said, just give me a chance. I'll do my best to be at every meeting, whatever you need. I'm going to do my best to be here. And Bill, I gave her my word. And at that point, it wasn't about her trusting that particular organization. I need her to trust me. And that's really kind of where it stems. And bring it. And you fast forward that now, Bill, in this new donor landscape, it's going to take a lot of that, right? It's going to be a lot of, the initial wins are going to look very different than just kind of monetary wins. And I think a lot of leaders and board members are really going to struggle with that, because again, it's not pre-COVID now, right? This is post-COVID. So again, with the new demographic shift and just kind of, and this is really becoming a relational work, right? It's gonna really reshape everything, from metrics to everything, how we judge the work, what's winning, what's working, what's not, all of it.
Christopher, another outreach that we're seeing from some nonprofit organizations, in fact, one of our doctoral students is working on this with his dissertation work, is an increase in Black donor giving circles, Hispanic donor giving circles, that a way to identify and celebrate the generosity of different demographic groups is to create these giving circles. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that approach, and how can that approach lead to not maintaining just separate activities, but the donors becoming fully integrated throughout the entire nonprofit organization, not just through a demographically defined giving circle?
Yeah, I mean, Bill, I'll be honest with you. In my personal opinion, I think giving circles are going to be a really big thing going forward. especially as we continue to see the drop in, in direct mail and, and just kind of individual giving. But we do know also from research that people in giving circles tend to give more. It brings them closer to the mission. They can see their impact. And communities of color, they do it in community, right? And so it makes them feel good, right? And again, being African American, if you look at the term giving circles, that's been around for a long, just kind of the format, susus, all of those things, that's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so, that's a new thing, and not even new, like it's in, it's not going anywhere.
And so again, a wonderful strategy to acknowledge, to celebrate, yep. But hopefully also a first step and not the only step to welcome a diverse range of supporters, volunteers into our nonprofit organizations. Christopher, I'm curious, do you have any final words of advice? We know that the fundraising profession is still predominantly Caucasian. We're gradually seeing an increase in diversity from one year to the next. And for our audience to know that Christopher is part of the African American Development Officers Organization, an affinity organization of fundraisers identifying as Black. So thanks to that organization and others, we're slowly seeing more diversity. We're not there yet. What advice do you have for fundraisers then, a predominantly still white profession, to reach out and cross those lines of distinction to add more diversity to their donor databases?
So, Bill, first of all, thank you for that great question. And so I would say even opportunities like this is just really good to be able to kind of share kind of what's being done. But going forward, and I want to be very honest when I say this, I know a lot of people are maybe, lack of better words, afraid of what they don't know. But you got to lean in, you got to ask questions. And if you don't know, let's have a conversation. I tell people, let's talk, right? It's going to look very different, but we all are people. But you got to lean in and ask questions, because this is not changing. Things are not going to change. It's changing. That's happening right now. And if you wait and try to say, well, I'm going to try to squeeze onto this old methodology for as long as I can, by the time you need to change, it's too late, because those relationships are already formed and things are already moving. So I would say, don't wait. If you don't know, ask some people. There are a ton of Black people of color. I know some amazing Latino professionals in this space. The AAD, as you mentioned, shout out to Birgit Burden, who's the founder of that. F3 Fundraising, fabulous African-American women fundraisers. We have just in the volunteer work that I do for AADO, Men of Color, we have access to over 400 Black men that are professionals, from entry level to seasoned vets, right? So there's no shortage. It's just people may not want to, or may not, let's just say they don't really know what it looks. So I'm telling you right now, you go to the AADO website, guys, we're here.
And that is so consistent with teaching we have at our school, and even for my own career, finding those affiliate organizations where people gather. They are welcoming of folks who want to learn more about their organization, want to learn more about the people who they serve. And this is also described well by our colleague, Dr. Lilia Wagner, who's written the book Diversity and Philanthropy, an AFP award-winning book. And she makes that point. If you don't know, start by building the trusting relationship, and then admit what you don't know and ask. And that almost always is just so well received when you're seen as coming with genuine interest. Christopher Beck is a principal gift advisor at LSAC St. Jude. Christopher, thanks for this conversation on the Fundraising Schools podcast.
Bill, it's been great, man. Thank you.
And diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. We don't have a course on this. You know why, folks? Because this is integrated into all of our courses. It's a theme that runs through all 24 of our public courses that lead now to 5 different certificates. These courses are taught in person or online. Same with our custom training, where we take a little bit of this course, a little bit of that course, knit the curriculum all together for what you specifically are looking for your nonprofit, your association, or your region. We have the quarterly webinars and, of course, these weekly podcasts. All of our information is gathered in our textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, now out in the book's 5th edition. This information is available online at go.iu.edu/TFRS for the Fundraising School. I'm grateful for our producers, the Emmy Award winner, Mike Anthony, and Jennifer Boffman, CFRM. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. You are now more fully informed on this first day from the Fundraising School.